please admit. Thank you very much in advance. So once again, please note good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Um, Thank you for joining for another session of Azure Power Lunch. As you know, we record these calls and we place our recordings on our YouTube channel. So if you don't want to be recorded, you may want to drop off now. And with that, we start our topic of discussion, which is Logic Apps MCP servers. So here is the quick agenda. This is currently in public preview. We're going to talk about what is MCP, what this protocol is all about with LLM and agentic AI. This is becoming a big thing, and how you can use Logic Apps as MCP server. And we will see a quick demo. Mostly, it's going to be a demo of like how you can very easily take advantage of this particular feature. So, first of all, what is Model Context Protocol? So Model Context Protocol is an open standard. Think of it as a device driver standard. So if you remember operating systems, initially when they came out, uh, they had devices. So how you connect with those devices? So that's where device driver comes into picture. There's a standard for device drivers, like Windows device drivers. They uh, sit as a plug and play layer between the device that you have and the operating system that you have. You don't have to do any customization. You just build a driver and here you connect to a device, plug and play. That's what MCP does, except it does this for the for the LLMs that need to connect to third-party system, databases, file server, APIs, and things like that. So let's say that you want to get that information, you want to use that capability that is available through APIs and all. How you do that? Yes, one way is like write custom code. Wonderful. But then you have to write custom code for every system that becomes unmanageable very, very soon. We know. What this allows you to do, MCP, Model Context Protocol, is provide a standard, a plug and play connector standard where you can connect to the system using this particular standard, which is basically, first of all, consists of MCP host. And MCP host is something that is hosting your, LLM or your agentic uh, uh, infrastructure, agentic AI. So that can be a IDE of some sort. Okay. Second part is the MCP client. That's the piece that translates between LLM and the system. Okay. So that's that. Um, so that's that system. And that basically is a component that translates the request that's coming from LLM and send it to server. And then once a response comes back, sends back to the LLM. Third piece is the MCP server. That's what we're going to be talking about. That's the lightweight piece that interacts with the uh, backend system, which can be a file system or a database or a third-party API, and uses a standard format. So that's what we are talking about. That's what we're going to be using Logic Apps to build. And Logic Apps make total sense because Logic Apps provides you a number of capabilities in a sense of like a building block. So it has a number of connectors. Let me go to the second screen. Um, it has number of connectors. Each, when you're building Logic App, you're building these using these building blocks, using those connecting to ServiceNow, connecting to Office 365 like Outlook, SharePoint, databases, Azure services, and each connector exposes the functionality of the system. So think of it. I mean, why can't I use that to, ex why can't I use that to expose it as a MCP server? And that's what this feature allow us to do. Just keep in mind that this feature is currently in public preview. And as you know, security is the top priority with AI and especially with MCP. You can use logic apps with easy authentication to make them secure, basically Azure Entra-based authentication. So that's what comes into picture here. And there are two ways the two options this public preview provides. One is you can go through API Center integration, and that's going to be today's demo all about. In this one, we are going to be registering our MCP, Logic App based MCP server in uh, API Center. If you don't know, API Center is Microsoft kind of a repository service for APIs. You can register APIs from all different sources, including API management or APIs based in AWS or running somewhere standalone. You can host it. So that's what we're going to be using. We are going to be using that to register our MCP server. Okay. Second part is you don't use that. You basically have native supports in Logic App. That will be a part of some future discussion. I will provide a link. You can take a look. But just to provide an idea, like how we can take advantage of it, I'm going to be using the API Center. And here is a quick architecture of, as a high level, how this thing works. So as I said, your app host or the MCP host has a client. Probably this is VS Code that's talking to, first of all, you have registered your MCP server in API Center, so it gets the URL, and then it talks to the MCP server, and then MCP server in the form of a logic app is talking to the through the connector to that system, which can be, for example, SharePoint, Outlook, or ServiceNow for the complex system. That's how it works. Okay. And we are going to take a look at a simple example just to get this idea, like how this thing works. And you will see how easy it is to build these type of system very, very quickly. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So let's quickly jump into the demo. Okay. Um, so first of all, what I'm going to show you, I'm a big video game fan. And so this is basically a site and that has a list which has video game reviews. Okay. So what we're going to use is we're going to create an MCP server which can give us a summary of these reviews, which can give us allow us to basically interact with this list. So that's what we are going to be doing. So first step first, you have to have some of the prerequisite. You have to have an API center created. Okay, you can create an API center. There is a paid version and there is a free version. I'm just doing a demo, so I'm using a free version. Okay, just make sure you create it. Second thing is make sure you have the API center portal published. It take a few steps to publish it. Just point and click, and you just publish the portal. Make sure that you have published that. That's number one. Number two, you create an empty logic app. I know this kind of seems weird, but yes, you have to create an empty logic app, and it has to be standard. Please note that this thing only works with standard at the moment. And creating the empty logic app, uh, based on what I heard so far, read so far, this is a preview requirement. In the future, you don't have to create it. You can create it through the experience of registration. So got it? You have API Center, you created the portal, and then you created an empty logic app. I just created this empty logic app. As you can see, there is nothing there just to save time because we only have 30 minutes. Okay. So now let's go into the uh, this API center. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a discovery. So there are different ways. You have different services that you can discover, and we are going to, this logic app has just appeared. We do register, and what we're going to do is it needs an empty logic app. As I said, they will provide you the capability to create a logic app from here. Right now it's not there. And now we're going to select a connector. Okay. And as I said, since our list is in SharePoint, we are going to create a SharePoint connector. This is the SharePoint connector that we see. And now let's select some actions that we are going to be using. So what we're going to do, we're going to do create item. So that's one. And then we are going to do get items. That's the second one. So these two we selected. And let's do next. Now we need to do some configuration. Oh, by the way, if you haven't registered a connector, you have an option to register your connector here. I mean, if anybody has played with Logic App, you know, if you add a new connector, you have to do authentication, things like that. So you will do it here. But in our case, since I'm playing with this demo, I already have a connector registered. So that's the one I'm using. Okay, just keep that in mind. So there's your experience may slightly be different as you may have to set up this connector, provide the authentication information and things like that. Okay, and let's save it and let's move on. And first, you see, needs setup. So it needs some help to set up. So what we're going to do, first thing, and now let's kind of start doing some modification. Instead of generic list item, I'm going to say create a video game review. It's a create item. Second, pay attention to this, where these parameters are coming from. So these are user. There are two options. Either it can be a user or model. In this case, you have to provide this value for the user. So basically, through that connector, it's going to pick up what options are available. I have sales team, so I'm going to use this site address. That's where my list is. I'm going to go down. The list name is video game reviews. Okay, so I'm going to pick that list. Okay, as we move further down, it's going to say what parameters I need to select. So in the video game reviews, I'm sure you have seen you have video game, you have reviewer name, you have reviewer email, you have rating, and you have comments. So these are the things that the LLM will be providing, because when I'm going to be creating the review, they're going to be providing me with those that information. So as you can see here, this is all coming from the model. Once again, as I said, two option. Model mean coming from the model at the runtime. If you put user, then you have to provide it now. That will be a static information. Okay. So of course, this will come from the model at runtime, because all of these what video game we were using, playing, all of that, that should come from there. Okay. So let's do the save changes and we come here. The next is we have to tweak get items. I know it says it's configured, but we have to tweak it. So what we're gonna do quickly make a change here. We're gonna say get video game reviews. I'm gonna change this to get video game reviews. And in this case, we're gonna say this is provided by user. And we are going to pick same thing we did previously. Same thing, user and video game reviews. Okay. I mean, here you can pick like what filter query sending. I mean, it's a small list, so I'm not going to bother with these. So let's just save changes. Okay. And then click register. It's going to take a few kind of a seconds to register it. It's basically going to set up the Logic app, create the proper workflows, and we can go in here to see if, it's basically now going in, setting up the Logic app. Now it's registering the SharePoint server in the APIs. It's all registered. So let's go to the API. So now we are in API Center in APIs, and there is new uh, MCP server SharePoint, and it uses the default name. I don't like the default name, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be very creative um, and you can use any name basically. I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go edit it, and I'm going to give it, and it's a good idea to give some different name because you may have multiple SharePoint servers. It's MCP, it's for, we're going to say it is using game reviews. Same thing here, just for the sake of simplicity, and let's save it. So now this thing, we have created it, it's saved. Okay, Now, remember I told you the API portal. Let's go in here into the settings, save and publish. Anytime you make a change, you have to do this save and publish. So basically, the fresh things are appearing in the portal. Go back to portal and let's refresh it. You see here, this is game reviews that we saw that is here. So, and it's gonna show us. Uh, so now it says there's an endpoint URL. It's not showing, but there is an endpoint URL, and we have copied the URL. I will show it to you in 1 second. And so that's now this all the setup is there. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go in into our VS Code and try to use this tool. Okay, so we go into VS Code. So now we are here. We are going to go view command palette and add MCP server. Just use the HTTP one and paste this URL. So as you can see here is the logic app name API MCP. Okay, that's it. And here we're going to use the name MCP game reviews 404. So that's the name we are going to give it to MCP game reviews. Misspelled it here. Okay. Anybody with me so far? Okay. So that's it. You've done it. This is, and since I was playing with it, you see another one that I created a few minutes ago. Okay. Anyways, but that's not running right now. Okay. So it's gonna ask you for authentication because remember, we have secured this logic app and we will take a look at the logic app in a second. Um, what has been added to it. Um, we have it's requesting permissions, consent. Since I'm the admin, I'm gonna do it. You may need the admin uh, to approve it. Okay, everything is there. Uh, I know. So you see, this is an error. This error will come up sometime, and to address it, we will go to the logic app now. Okay, so let's go back to the logic app here. This is the logic app. If I refresh it, I will see two workflows. These are automatically generated. One is for create item, okay? And as you can see here, this is the schema. It's getting video game comments, all of that. Then it's posting it to the SharePoint connector to create the item. Wonderful. And if we go into the second workflow, it's for get items, and it's going to be calling the get items, the list name, all of that is using the unique GUID of the list to get the items, all of that. Okay, wonderful. The next thing that we need to check is authentication. Okay, so if you get this error, go to authentication, and this is the registration of the Logic app uh, to enable easy auth, basically enter ID auth. Go to edit, and in here, this is only for preview. You say allow request for any application. Before, remember, it was allow request for specific client application. Just say allow request for any application. Okay. Um, so with that, just do a save. Okay, so once that is saved, what we are going to do is we are going to go back to our VS Code. And in the VS Code, I am going to restart this server and look here towards the bottom. As you can see here, it's waiting for server. It's again trying to connect to server. This time it connects. There is no error. Everything is good, and it discovered two tools. So right now, one was the create item, one is the get item. Okay, and with that, so now let's send some requests to this. Okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, give me all video game reviews. Okay, simple. So I'm asking at the prompt. Look, and by the way, you will get this prompt from here, open chat. Okay, and just send it out. And it's gonna look here and it's gonna see, okay, we have this one. I'm gonna skip it. I'm gonna use this one that we just created. I'm gonna allow it. So let it. So basically, this is kind of going in. This is going to the MCP server, and here is the list. Look, all the reviews. It provided a very nice listed manner, and I can ask some specific question. What people are saying about Halo video game? Okay, so it's gonna go in there working. You see, based on the video game review, here's what people are saying. So it's going to show the video game review. So that's that. Okay. So all of that is there. Now let's go and create a review. So that's enough. Um, let's say create a video game review. Okay. So now we are going, it's going to create the video game review. And yes. Yeah, so basically, what we can do here is, yeah, it's, would you please- yeah, so basically, you will have to provide this in this shape and form, and then it will create a. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna uh, put this thing here, and I'm gonna just change it to Fallout 76. I'm gonna change it uh, great RPG. I mean, RPG is a style of role-playing game. I mean, RPG stands for role-playing game, and I'm gonna name it. Uh, yeah, let's keep it the same. Okay, contoso.com. Contoso.com. Okay, that's that, and let's send it. Okay, so now it fill up all the information. It says, you see, it's showing me this is the input that it's gonna be sending, and let's allow it. Okay, review created, and let's verify that it does it do something. So what we can do is let's go back here. This is our review page. Let's refresh it. Yeah, sure. It created this review. So, I mean, I know this is not some earth-shattering demo, but you get the idea. You have a logic app. Logic apps, they have built in hundreds of connectors. Okay, so now this gives you a very easy path to connect these services, third-party API, or databases, or all of these to connect to your LLM, to your agentic AI. And it's very simple. I mean, look what we did. We created a logic app and we didn't have to code or anything. We went through the connector setup and I just used a couple of values. You can make it as complex as possible, as add more verbs, uh, add more action so you can do more interaction, all of these things. All of it is done with almost or kind of without any code. Yes, an API center is there. Just keep in mind, API center is not hosting anything. The only thing is we register the API there. Okay. And by the way, as you know, as I have said, there is a way to natively um, do it without using API Center. So you can use API Center, or if you don't want to use it, you can do it without. It's a little more complex. I mean, that will require some JSON kind of tweaking and things like that. That's why I like this approach because it is totally codeless, or I mean 99% codeless. You basically just go in, you create a logic app, you set up your connector, and then here you go. Your MCP server is ready to go, and then you can just with the demo I showed you. I mean, you can use it with other stuff as well. I'm just showing with a demo with VS Code. So, I hope you kind of found that useful. Any questions, folks? Okay, if there are no questions, I will give everybody their 4 minute or 3 minutes back and hope to see everybody next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch. Thank you very much.